Okay, thank you all for staying here today with me. Welcome to the first podcast of studioi. I would like to start introducing my colleagues today. We have here Boran Agoston, Executive Design Director of studioi, Claudia, Juhre, Head of Landscape Design, Ghazal, Architect, and Arun, Technical Lead Interior Design.
Yeah.
Okay, so today, the podcast of today, it's gonna talk about design through generations, taking advantage that we have 4 generations along studioi, so I think it's gonna be an interesting battle, without blood, please. So to break the ice, I would like to start with, I think it's like the biggest question here. So what is the difference between the design thinking or the design process that all of you have? Maybe we can start with you, Claudia?
Yeah. The way I start design, I always think first and do some research. My young staff is always surprised that I often don't draw anything the first 2 days when I have a new project, because I will think about what the project means, who are the users, something about the location, the geography, the climate, sometimes even just mood ideas, objects. And then once I got some idea, then I do my visioning, and from the visioning onwards I find a strong storyline, and then I actually start drawing, because I think it's really important that you find your string and your storyline.
Okay, that's interesting.
Design in my generation was slightly different because we didn't have that much technology in front of us and with us, I would say, and most of our design were kind of concentrated around research and hand drawing sketches. We didn't have the internet, so we tried to be kind of educated by our older kind of friends or colleagues, but also we use any opportunity to find any book and any magazines we can get, and we start kind of researching and kind of seeing what is a trend in the world. So it's a huge difference between that time of 40 years of my working experience of starting days till now, in terms of how design evolved, how the methods changed, and how people are kind of adopted new technologies.
So I would say that maybe the opposite from Boran would be you, Ghazal, that you are the youngest here.
I think for us, like, the tools make it much easier. Like, I mean, the steps will stay the same. We will start to understand the project, understand its context, everything. We will understand the site, also the users, as Claudia said. So, but the difference in our generation are the tools, because now, let's say if you want to see like the site, you can simply search it on Google Maps. You can see the site on Google Maps. Also for like the sketching now with using AI, like you can generate let's say 10 ideas per day. You will generate more and more ideas. So for us, for sure, the technology made it much easier. I mean, the steps will stay the same, but the technology helps us a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, being in the middle of everything, every age group, we start with the research, of course. Then now the technologies has enhanced a lot, so that we are just creating everything through the technology. So from the past, we used to just create everything from very base research subject, research about the topic. We go to the client, present ourselves. But nowadays everything is enhanced, so that the AI or the use of the BIM tool, the collaboration is much more improved. So we are in the transition stage of the design development.
Actually, it's interesting because most of you have mentioned about the technology and how the technology have changed maybe this design, the thinking process. But what do you think? Do you think that technology has improved this design? Maybe we are more creative now or less? What do you think? Maybe you mentioned that you were in the transition period.
So like we were in the transition. Like when I was in the college, I just started with the manual drafting. So that's the way we started it. but eventually it became an AutoCAD. That's the first version of AutoCAD. Then it came to the involvement of building information modeling, the BIM technologies, further developing, and it's not a never-ending process. So we were in the transition process, so we could enjoy every part of the design evolution, how it started and where are we now. So it was very interesting. So we can say we were with architecture 2.0 and still growing. Yeah.
I will just add one thing, very important, that the time of design we had to design anything, let's say 35 years ago, and time now is unbelievably shorter. Now is whatever we need to show to client, it's within days, not weeks, not months, and that's a huge difference from the days when we kind of started our profession and all days, because we had much more time to develop the ideas, much more time to research. And we didn't have those technology to help us to speed up the process.
I don't know. I think it's good and bad, because I feel a lot of people, when they use technology, like I said, I normally take time. They go straight into the computer and start fuddling around with those programs. But they actually do not think what they want to draw, because somehow they think the computer can draw it for you. So I think it can be good and bad. I think you still need to have the idea in your head before you jump into using the technology.
So maybe we are kind of limited by the technology itself.
Yeah, but I always compare it to, when we had cameras where you could only take 36 pictures, you would think very carefully about every picture you take. Now with the phone, you take pictures and pictures and pictures you don't actually need. Yeah. So I think this is my comparison sometimes to how people use technology.
Totally, that's interesting. You want to add anything?
Yeah, as Boran said, like for sure now we're saving a lot of time. Like the process was taking a lot time like before, but now it's much easier, much faster for us. Like for sure we can't rely on the AI. I can't just give the AI my project and tell the AI just like design or do create a 3D model. This is not the point. For sure, like there is a touch for the human being, for the architect, for the designer, but like your job is to know how to use those AI tools just to make your life easier. So for sure it's improving.
It's improving. So it's a positive.
Yeah, for me, yes.
I mean, we just foresee the future is on in the hand of technology, this kind of technology and automation.
Yeah,
we just need to be part of that. We just to grow with that.
Yeah, I can add one more thing. Like even when I was studying architecture, at the first year, like we were using the traditional methods. Like this is the foundation for sure. Like we need to know how to sketch, how to understand the scale and everything. But since you have the foundation, then you can use like the technology to help you and to save some time.
Okay, that's good. So taking some concepts that we have spoke through the last question. One of them is like the creativity, no? How to handle this creativity. And maybe, can you tell me how do you prioritize creativity against functionality? What follows what? Maybe I would like to address this one to you, Boran.
Well, I'm actually following the old school, meaning that whatever we have as a creative idea has to be function. It's the new technologies allowed you to go opposite way, to, for example, create some kind of nice shape, or interesting shape, and you try to basically put all program in that shape, creating something interesting for the people to be, kind of happy or memorable. I don't know. Is it just a different approach, different people? I would say for me is something which I always practice through my years of this profession, and it looked like that for me works. So some people might have a different opinion, obviously, but
okay, different opinions here.
I mean, normally I think you try to balance. But then sometimes, for example, sometimes you buy like a jumper, or a dress which is really unpractical because it's so beautiful. So, and then you somehow make it work. You maybe tailor it in one or the other way. So I think normally I try to stay practical, but sometimes when you have one idea, you really have to challenge yourself as well to make something impossible practical and still really beautiful. So I think it can be a real balance.
Do you think it's possible?
It is.
It
Not
is possible.
always,
Like I like with that idea, but at the end, it's about how the user wants it. So, so we are creating it for the user, how they want it. We have to just the end user may go with funky ideas, but at the end, maybe using after for a couple of years or a couple of months, they will say, oh, it's not comfortable for me. Like an ergonomic chair. I recently designed a chair for my home. It was very funky design, I'll say. It was very nice. But at the end, I cannot, sit comfortably because... so that kind of functionality is prime here. So creativity, it should be there along with function.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
It has to be practical, I would say.
It should be practical.
It has to be practical.
And how do we integrate sustainability on all this functionality, creativity? Maybe...
Well,
Claudia?
I mean, for us, it's different with landscape because in recent years, most projects start with sustainability. Especially when we talk about planning projects, you first look into what the site conditions are, you understand the natural landscape, the natural gradient, the climate. So I think it's a very, very big part of our work. For us, it's actually more difficult when the client doesn't want sustainability and tells us to do. It's almost against the ethos of our of being a landscape architect.
But nowadays, I guess all the projects.
No, they're still, especially here. If we think about the big lagoons you build, the amount of kind of say natural stone you use where you cut down mountains. There's all kinds of like layers of sustainability that come in the profession. The materials you use, for example. A lot of projects, they start with sustainable materials, then they see the price tag, and then they go down to the cheapest stuff that you cannot recycle afterwards, because the cycling of construction is actually really important. Because sometimes this stuff will be after so many years you have to tear it down, and then half of the material you can't recycle. So there's so many layers of that, but I think it's very important.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very important to consider, if you're considering a future generation, sustainability is an integral part of everything in building construction. Starting from the design stage until the operation stage, we have to consider sustainability. It was not there in the previous generations, but at least I can say my first interview was for a sustainability consultant who were converting the old buildings to a sustainable building. So they thought about that in my when I was entering to my career, but I didn't go for that path. But nowadays everything is going towards a sustainable path, and we have a regulatory authority for that which controls the sustainability in a minimum requirement like Estedama in Abu Dhabi, the LEED ratings, etc. So if there is a regulatory authority, the everyone is tend to focus towards to meet the minimum requirement. Without that, we'll not get an approval. So everyone should have that authority to use sustainability.
But I guess in our designs, we don't want only to kind of check the boxes to get the LEED certificate. We want to put something else, into the project.
I would say one thing. My generation, baby boomers, let's say, we are fully responsible for what be happening with planet now.
We blame you then.
So, but we need to also kind of understand what's the reason behind it. So it's maybe for the next podcast we can discuss a little bit that. So for us is a kind of going from. Let's go back just for a little while. All baby boomers generation was a kind of social active and basically very socially engaged. You remember the Vietnam War activism and that.
The dying
so
forest.
then the kind of rebellion generation, and that generation is kind of work very hard and achieve lots of things through their work. And they try to spend that whatever they wanted, and then that's excess becomes a kind of issue. So for us to come into the stage when everything has become a problem, what we created eventually, it's a little bit kind of learning curve, how we actually start thinking now how we can convert it ourselves quickly and become, kind of sustainability champions. So it's not that easy, but equally it's not that difficult either, because you see what is the planet at the moment, what we done as a generation and generation after us to the less extent.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to learn quickly, and to see how we can actually rectify, if we can, those issues.
And for you, maybe Ghazal, you have
Yeah,
maybe
for our generation, I think now the sustainability is not an option. It's a responsibility. Like when you want to design any project, you have to convince your client. Like you need, let's say, more green spaces. You have to, I know it's hard, like to convince him to use, let's say, eco-friendly materials, but like you see what's going on right now, even like our designs, when you see like buildings, it affects our life, like you're not walking, you're not living a healthy life. So when you change your design, you will change like a whole life, when you change a community, a sustainable community where there is like let's say green areas or walkable areas, at least, or for bicycles. I know like it's so hard right now, but you need to convince them, because you will change their lifestyle, and also like you will be sustainable. It's really a responsibility right nowadays, because you see how the planet is heading to.
Need to have, it's a must to have nowadays. It's not so
correct.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I've been reading about this 15-minute city, and I think you have quite expertise on that, Claudia.
Well, so no, I mean, what you say is interesting, because I always say to people, when I studied landscape architecture, the projection was, you will never find a job because there's hardly any landscape architects needed, because it was such a small profession. And actually now it's become a really relevant profession, and we really want it, because you need us for any planning proposal. Yeah. And the 15-minute city, I spoke at a conference about it. I mean, it's actually nothing new. I always said a city should be cyclable, walkable, you should be able to take public transport. And there was an initiative from France where they actually created they came with COVID, where they basically said, okay, everywhere in a big city, you should be able to do everything by walk in 15 minutes radius, meaning by everything is doctor, supermarket, kindergarten, school, hospital. And then also they talked about flexible spaces, on the weekend, the school can be a marketplace, can be used for different things. We have co-working space. If people can't travel, they can stay in their district. And the developers are forced that also these rules are used when there comes new buildings, that some of the use has to follow these 15-minute city principle, and you cannot just with money buy every plot and build luxury villas everywhere. So I still think it's a really relevant thing. And actually those areas, when you think about it now, people all want to live in these hipster areas in big cities, and more or less that's the 15-minute thing, because you can do everything. It's trendy, cool. You can take your basket, you can buy organic vegetable. It's a lifestyle choice, I think.
Yeah. So let's try to go to that direction if possible. We will try our best. And changing a little bit about the topic, and talking about the day-to-day in the office, I see that, at the end, all of you belong to different teams. How do you, when you start working on a new project, how do you value this teamwork? How does it work for you? I guess maybe all of you have different approach to that.
Well, again, I'm going to start again through history. Again, when we started, we had the teams of, let's say, 4 or 5 people, most of the friends. One person is very good in hand draw sketches, another one is in making the models, another one in research, another one is, let's say, some kind of technology at that time. So those people converging for any competition or any new job, kind of always started with good laugh. I would say good time. We had nice sessions when we start putting the ideas on the walls, and we all everything at that time were kind of drawn by hands. Now from that time to new time, I saw the differences that yes, we still have a interaction. We have still whiteboard. We still exchange ideas. We're talking, but much less, because the time in front of us is much shorter, as I explained before. So less interaction between the people, and more kind of rely on technologies, new kind of the skills which people have. So that's the difference between old and new. And for some good and bad things, I think it's happening.
I think previously when I was working, like we had enough time to design, present it, construct everything. But nowadays it's going towards a market where everything is needed yesterday. So the time is essential. Collaboration nowadays makes it very easy if it is online, because during my early years, we are just directly going to the meeting rooms, like in presenting everything on the table. We'll be discussing on the table sketches and everything. But now everything after the COVID, we can say like everything is online. So we see a new collaboration tool there. BIM 360 is there. We can sketch over the screen.
Actually, all our projects we are doing in BIM 360.
Yes,
so this is a collaborative teamwork tool.
So it's input from, I'll say input from everyone is there, which is on one side it is really good. We have the inputs from all the disciplines. On the other side, we'll have too many inputs which can kill the original idea also. Yeah. So both sides is there.
But I also actually find Revit is good in the sense that it's shared and that you can see, how the different disciplines come together. But I think what is not correct, Revit just takes longer than the traditional production time, but the projects haven't become longer. So you still have 6 weeks for schematic design, but in Revit actually drawing the models and drawing the details takes, I think, a lot longer than it used to be in 2D. And I think this is sometimes where really the technology sometimes rules your project a little bit and can take creativity away, because you're just running behind the model and running between the coordination. So I think that's sometimes a bit of a disadvantage.
Okay. Actually, I'm hearing a lot of tight deadlines, kind of sometimes stress. How are you handling this in the day-to-day? Are you feeling the stress at the office?
If you're in this industry, it's born with you. The stress is born with you, I'll say. So we just need to cleverly manage it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is causing this stress? Usually it's like the clients, the deadlines, the fast track of the project itself.
I mean, it depends on the country like you work in. Also, it depends on the client expectations, because usually we always face like a high expectation from the client, because like most of them, they don't know like how the process goes on and how the coordination how we do the coordination, because if we need to coordinate between all the disciplines, between the architects, the structural engineer, and all the disciplines, it takes time. So the pressure is present, like especially in our major. Like we try to make some balance, but at the end, if you have like a positive mindset, organized team, like the skills of your team, it's like we can handle it at the end.
Okay.
I actually find I see it in my team, and also for myself, I think the biggest stress is people make to themselves, because you want to perform well, so I always see my designer, my nice tight designer Frank, whenever he feels he doesn't have enough time to produce something nice, he gets really stressed and frustrated, because that's his major aim, to do something really that he can. And when he feels, oh, the time is not enough, then he comes to my desk like that. And then I just have to say, it's fine, whatever we do, it's still nice, but we can only do what we can do in the amount of time. You still need to go home, see your son, take the time out, because you need that, to get rid of the stress. So I think always stay calm and try to do the best you can in your time.
And just accept the reality that always, there's a better idea. There's a better render that you can do, and a better presentation that you can present. So just accept the reality that, if you have this time...
Are you all accepting the reality or not?
We're trying.
I'm just taking everything positive, saying this is not the end of the world.
Not all the time.
There is always a tomorrow. There is always a second chance. So be there.
Yeah.
But would you say that this try to do the perfection, it's something that it's only belongs to designers, architects, creative people, or not really?
Well, what's the difference between architects, for example, with due respect, and no interiors? For example, our colleagues, let's say engineers. The big difference is that they're working strictly to the code. Strictly working to the calculation, and interpretation of that is very kind of rigid. In our case, some line could be on so many shapes, and that creativity and possibility to make mistakes is basically sometimes causing the stress. Also, most importantly, I said many times to my younger colleagues, when you have a deadline, and deadline is imminent, let's say tomorrow morning, do not spend time unnecessary on stuff which people might not even notice. And we as architects are very kind of particular in that, to self-inflicting wounds. Is that font needs to be that size, the thickness of this needs to be that size. If not that, I cannot accept my report. But that's, to me, before the submission, creating enormous stress. And I said to people, nobody's going to notice this. Please finish this and go home, take shower and enjoy the life.
But I think if we link this back to technology, again, in olden times, I think you would have maybe produced a lot less in terms of volume of sheets or prints. But the ones you did, you actually did it in a lot more, you finished it very nicely, because you see it in front of you when you draw it, So in here, I think often when we add too much volume, then as well, like you said, then that's get the stress, because you think you have to do 300 pages, because it's now so easy, because in the computer you don't have the tracing paper, this and that. So I think that also causes the stress that we tend to overproduce.
That's true.
Yep.
So, for me, work-life balance is one of the very important things which I've learned so far.
Actually, that was my next question. So thank you very much.
I always see that. So it is very much, that balance is very much required, because on one side, you have your passion about your, I think I'm an architect, so I have my passion about my, work, my design, everything. If you have that passion, definitely you will, somehow sit there and finish it. You don't mind about the time. Let the time fly, you just be la la la. But on the other side, you just have to realize there is other commitments on your life. Maybe your family, your own, your own wealth, whatever it is. You just need to have that kind of a break in your life also. So that balance need to be there. That's I learned from my thing. So just finish the work. Try to balance between that and this. Try to be very efficient on your working hours, and just move along. That is my way of thoughts now.
That way. Your wife is happy then.
Now, yes.
That's good. And for the rest, is it important to have like a good work?
I think I had jobs where I was working, and there was no, it was also expected by the companies I worked for. And what I realize is then if you work too much, your creativity will go down, because you need to sometimes leave your desk, go breathe, do something, go outside, especially like for landscape architects, I always kick my stuff and say, go on a weekend, go visit something, visit a park, go somewhere, because your mind needs to breathe, because then you can do maybe the same work in 2 hours, and if you don't leave your desk, you can sit there for 8 hours and no idea will come. So I think it's really important for your work, but also for your mental health and physical health, because we spend a lot of time sitting down. So it's actually important that you get up, move around, be happy, And also for your colleagues, you need to be happy. So
I think as a creative people, I think we need to break the routine. Routine is what we don't like. And to break routine, you can have many different ways. For example, for me, most important is traveling. I like to travel. I like to see the different parts of the world. That's helped me to really reduce my stress and to learn. I mean, learning is a constant process, as we know. So that's then sport equally very important for me, that I still keep active. So that only way with that kind of, I would say, valves you can actually relieve the stress.
That's nice. What about you?
Yeah, for me, like it's really hard to balance between the work and like your life. But at the end, like as Aaron and everyone said, like you need to have a break. Like for me. And also it depends on the personality, because if you're passionate about your work, about your ideas, especially at the design stage, because you all are exploring another ideas, better ideas, so you will keep thinking. We're not like the other majors, like they are out of the office, so disconnect, nothing, like they will not think in their work. But for us it's different, because also like architecture is everywhere, like maybe you will go to the mall and you will tell your friends, did you see, you will touch the materials, you will do these weird things, but at the end you are an architect. So yeah, but it's really like important to balance between your work and your life. But although like it's hard for our major, I can say. I need to admit it. Yeah.
I think we have talked a little bit of everything, but maybe we have missed one part of our jobs. Most of you have face-to-face interaction with clients. How important is that?
For us or for the client? For most, most clients, if the clients care, for them it's very important, because they, basically you have to see, we're selling a service. We're selling something on a piece of paper, maybe these days on a PDF, right? So actually, so who's the creator of that? So most clients actually, they want to see you and they want to be close to you. They want to follow your process. And for me, it also helps, because if I get feedback from a client, then I understand them. And after a while, I can understand what they like, or I can understand how I can convince them to what I like.
Yeah.
So I still think, even with all the Teams meetings, it's very good once in a while to see a client face to face.
Yeah, I was going to ask that maybe with the technology, the Teams will have maybe lost a little bit this part, but for me as well, it's much better to sit with someone, have a coffee. I think the conversation could be longer. And
yeah, they have the access to us anytime now. With Teams, with mobile. With all respect to the clients, what we have. So
no, but since we talk about clients openly, let's talk about openly. There are 2 or 3 types of clients. You have clients who are really self-centered and they think they know everything. You have the clients who are cooperative. They have really clients who cares. I really try to be professional, give my service to all of them in equal way, right? Because we are paid for that service. Now, but my approach is so for the people like clients who really show the respect to you, to your profession, to your time. You will give more than 100%, and that's important. I have so many of those clients, so I'm always grateful to have that kind of clients, and I'm really, really happy to work with them. And result of that cooperation, because we are working together. We are not just designing and he's gonna approving. No, we're just working together. The result of that work is much, much better than the kind of dictating of design of some clients also we met, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And sometimes client can even, I had a client when I was working freelance in China, I had a client who ended up being a really good friend of mine. So he came to my birthday and he invited me just like over for, some other projects to see, or that's also, can be, it doesn't work always, but it can be. He was quite young and he was very ambitious. He wanted really special projects. He didn't pay the greatest fees, but it was just working with him was just very, very nice. So that can also, give you something for life.
I think that's good. And also if you have a good relationship with the client can come back to us again.
Yes.
You can work, so at the end we create relationships.
So it's not always the fee issues, in my view. If I have the client who's really respectful and know what they want, I will always work for that client. And as I said, I will give more than 100%. Usually when you finish your work, you go home, right? You just switch off and think of something else. But with the good clients, with the guys who really challenge you and give you the nice projects, you switch on even at home, and you want to perform. You want to actually give him that extra, which they also kind of value.
I think that's a fantastic way of finishing this first session. That with a good client, we always want to give extra.
Yes, yes.
So thank you very much all to stay here with me. I think for the next one, I will need to invite our colleagues, engineers, infrastructure, MEP to defend themselves.
Then we can definitely have a fight how to get my street trees in the street.
For the next one, okay. I will take notes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much all.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
it's Friday and we want to keep the work-life balance.
Thank you for your time and
Thank you for
meditation.
Thank you so much.
Meditation. Yeah.